Welcome to the Overrated Experience Sports and Sports Betting Podcast. I'm your host, Kyle Blunt, and back after a lengthy time off for the NHL playoff edition of the Overrated Experience. For those who have joined the Overrated Experience before in our football coverage, our world baseball coverage, you'll know this is a betting experience and a sports talk type podcast where we talk about sports from the view of your view, the regular person kind of view. There is no sharps on this podcast. There is nobody breaking down advanced analytics. This is the podcast for you, the people. So welcome to the Overrated Experience Sports and Sports Betting Podcast. You can follow us on Twitter, aka X, at Overrated EXPER2. That's Overrated EXPER2. Also follow us on Facebook and Instagram at Overrated Experience. And here we go. Welcome back once again. We are ready to talk. I could not hold off and not come back with a fury to talk about the NHL and the NHL playoffs. What we'll do and what you'll hear in this episode is a breakdown of each matchup. Maybe talk a little bit about those teams that did not make the playoffs, aka the Leafs, and maybe their future and what they need to do in the offseason to turn things around, or what they need to do or will do or predicted to do, maybe that I don't agree with, but probably what will happen coming into next season. Sports is going crazy right now. We got the NBA playoffs. Raptors here in Toronto kick it off at 1 o'clock against the Cleveland Cavaliers. We obviously have Saturday morning English, German, Italian, Spanish, soccer action, aka football action. Of course, I got some bets on there. It's going crazy. Baseball is in full swing. Toronto's coming off, obviously, a World Series appearance with the Blue Jays, and so everything is going crazy when it comes to Blue Jays. It's just a wild time in the sports landscape, but I also want to kick it off and also remind us that sports betting, just like anything else, can spin out of control at any point. And in the recent surge of legalization of sports betting, it is important to promote that, look, I get caught up in it too, chasing. You chase and chase and chase. Things will just not go your way. You won't get the corner kick on the parlay that you need. You won't get that goal that you need. Maybe there's no goals in the third period, and you chase in that 10 o'clock game. I know it. I feel it. I live it too. But there's always tomorrow. There's always another day. You can always take a break. Circle back at some point when you can have a regular bankroll that is legitimate and you're not chasing and borrowing and going over your skis. I'm going to use that term a lot here. You're over your skis on maybe making bad decisions financially that are steering you in the wrong direction. So safety first. I think we should promote that more. But at the same time, be okay with talking about how this is fun. This is great. And we all dream of being able to pay some bills or pay a trip out of our winnings when it comes to sports gambling. But let's keep it cool. Let's keep it calm. And let's move forward. So the Overrated Experience is going to look at the NHL. And I hate putting these glasses on, guys. I hate it. I want to get rid of them, but don't get old. Hey, don't get old. And then you don't have to put on reading glasses. I'm already wearing contacts, and I got to put reading glasses on. It's ridiculous. Man, don't get old. That is my number one advice to you. So I'm going to share my screen. I'm going to take a look at what we're going to be chasing here today, and that is the NHL. Oh man, where's my screen? Where is my screen, boys? Let's go. All right, let's share. Got my screen up, and we're going to talk NHL action. What you're going to notice here, I think, is a change in what we're going to be looking at in this year's playoff format. Sorry, not the format, but we have a lot of fresh faces here. A lot of fresh faces in the NHL that had not been in the playoffs before. We're going to have a new Stanley Cup champion. The Florida Panthers are done. They're gone. They didn't do it. Back-to-back champions. 3-time Stanley Cup appearance. They're out. Teams like the Buffalo Sabres, who have not been in there forever, are going to be, they're a division winner in the Atlantic and taking on the Bruins. You have teams like the Pittsburgh Penguins that were left for dead that are now in the playoffs and will be taking on the Flyers. Thought Crosby was nuts for not taking the opportunity to get out of there. I look for them to make a run, and I'll make picks to the bracket a little later. Utah, over from Arizona, second year in Utah, will Be taking on the Vegas Golden Knights. The Ducks, the up-and-coming Ducks, are in the playoffs, taking on the Oilers. And, Colorado Avalanche, will they make a run? They won the President's Trophy from start to finish, pretty much the dominant team in the NHL this year. And we'll break that series down against the Kings. So a lot to talk about and a lot to go through, and we'll come back to that in a bit. So, first series we want to go through here is the Pittsburgh Penguins, Sid the Kid and company, taking on the Philadelphia Flyers. Rick Tockett's Philadelphia Flyers came in, took over from Torts. It's funny how Torts, John Tortorella, 7-0 with the Vegas Golden Knights leading into the playoffs. The answer in Vegas, and wasn't the answer to move this Flyers team closer to the playoffs like Rick Tocchet was. So interesting perceptions on two teams, two organizations. It's the Pittsburgh Penguins host the Philadelphia Flyers. Home ice advantage. FanDuel has them at a minus 152 favorite to win the series. Flyers plus 126. Now, if you look at it, Cup favorites plus 4,000. The Pittsburgh Penguins are. This is a 3-time Stanley Cup champion in the Sidney Crosby era, and not given much hope, to be honest. Plus 4,000. Flyers plus 6,000 to win the Cup and raise Lord Stanley. Just can't envision the Travis Konechny and Trevor Zegras lifting the Stanley Cup. Can you envision Pittsburgh? Just maybe. Just maybe. So where do we go here? Who's going to win this series? How long will it go? I got to believe that the Pittsburgh Penguins will eventually win this series, but it will be squeezed out to Game 7. So if I look on FanDuel and I look at the exact games, I think this is a 7-game series, so you have them at plus 170. I do find that as being a value bet. Now, I will throw out there, DraftKings. For you props folks out there, you love your props, and I'll dive into some of those DraftKings props. Gives a little more spice to the betting action if you like betting series props. More options, more value, and we'll give you some of those as well. So FanDuel, DraftKings are the two sites we're working off where we're suggesting some plays. Don't mind me, my left eye is on the Newcastle-Bournemouth game. I'm a sports bettor, so I'm going to be looking at what's going on. And I need a goal here, 78 minutes in, 1-1. One more goal to put me into the cash window. I digress. Pittsburgh, Philly, 7 games, plus 170. DraftKings, series most goals. I'm going to put head-to-head. That's what I like. They have a lot of head-to-head matchups where one player's pitted against another, whether it be points, goals, and other items. So right now I have a matchup head-to-head. Sidney Crosby, Travis Konechny of the Flyers, minus 120 when it comes to most goals in the series versus Travis Konechny. Minus 120 I like for Sid. It's good value. Put $100 on that. You're getting a $90+ payout. Like that on DraftKings. Look at the series. If I'm thinking this series is going to go 7 games, there's no way that Sidney Crosby is not going to have at least 3 or more goals in this series. And you give me a plus 125 on that, I'll take it. So what we got here to wrap up this series, we have Sidney Crosby being a presence, an impact, and a difference maker to send the Pittsburgh Penguins into that second round. So as far as the bracket goes, consider the Penguins moving on. Now we move on, and I got, East, West, 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 East, doesn't matter. We have a matchup of the Dallas Stars, Minnesota Wild. Now here's an alert. What to look out for. And keep in mind, what player stands out for both teams as make or break if he's not playing or not playing at a high level, do you believe shifts the balance between the series? In me, Quinn Hughes, big-time defenseman that the Minnesota Wild took out of Vancouver as their difference maker, as their franchise, making that franchise statement that Quinn Hughes is coming to Minnesota and he's going to take us to another level. I do believe that's the right decision. Quinn Hughes is the only defenseman, to my opinion, that you'd really think of Cale Makar, Quinn Hughes. I'd still probably put Cale Makar as the guy, but Quinn Hughes is not that far behind. So he's the difference maker. However, he's missed practices. He's missed time. And technically he's questionable heading into game 1 here on Saturday in Dallas. And my understanding is, I don't know if he's confirmed that he's landed in Dallas, but I know he didn't travel with the team. And the expectation is that he is going to play. The expectation he's going to be on a flight to Dallas. Well, that's a flag to me. And now I'm thinking, is this more posturing on the Wild side? I mean, the Minnesota Wild have been locked into this matchup with the Dallas Stars for quite a bit. So it's not like it's been down to the wire where Minnesota had to A, make the playoffs, 2, get a better seed. They've been locked into this matchup with the Dallas Stars. So is there a bit of posturing here, right? Is there a bit of posturing that our franchise defenseman, our difference maker, a guy we know might get up to 25 to 30 minutes a night in a playoff matchup, all playoff long, not this series. So is there posturing going on? And that this is more of a resting, that I want to make sure that I'm explaining that he has a health issue and it defined as an illness into this series? That's a flag, something to watch out for, but it might be on the other side where it's more resting versus anything detracting from Quinn Hughes' performance, because he's big and where I'm looking at this series. He needs to be available, and they're going to push him and push and push. So right now, the Dallas Stars and FanDuel are minus 118 to win the series, minus 102 to actually for Minnesota to win the series. So Dallas is a slight favorite despite having home ice advantage, now having a bigger advantage here on the betting side. Stanley Cup, plus 1,100 for Dallas, plus 1,600 for Minnesota. Now, this is where you look at Quinn Hughes, a.k.a. the Ottawa years with Erik Karlsson, where he kind of dragged the Ottawa Senators an overtime goal from getting to the Stanley Cup final against Sid and Malkin, his Penguins, years back. That's the difference maker that Quinn Hughes can be. So I'm going to take Minnesota for the minimal upset here to move on beyond Dallas and take this series. And Quinn Hughes is going to be the horse that brings the Minnesota Vikings to the second round. I'm going to assume he's not ill. I don't care if he's popping Advil. Just do it, Quinn. Get in that lineup, make a difference, and move beyond the Dallas Stars. So right now, when it comes to a prop betting, didn't really take anything on the series. What I looked at is, despite my thought, Minnesota is going to be the difference maker. Sorry, Bournemouth just scored. It got me the win. That's what I needed. That's what I'm looking for. Wins. Okay, back to concentrate, Kyle. Concentrate. Here we have the Dallas Stars. I think will jump out to a series lead. So on DraftKings, on FanDuel, I'm going to take the Dallas jumps out to a 2-1 lead in this series, splits at home, or takes the first 2 and Minnesota comes back, but wins that third game. Plus 130, I'll take Dallas to jump out to that 2-1 lead. From a player perspective and player props, right now on FanDuel, Mikko Rantanen, and this goes along with a lot of playoff matchups here. You have to look at playoffs completely different than the regular season. If it wasn't, my hometown Leafs would have 4 Stanley Cups with Austin Matthews, Mitch Marner, William Nylander, and John Tavares. They couldn't perform in the playoffs. Regular season, no problem. But we don't hand out Stanley Cups in the regular season. Mikko Rantanen is built for the playoffs. And for him not to have 3 goals in a series that probably is going to go 6-7 is a crime. He's plus 300 to have at least 3 or more goals. Give me that all day in this series. Mikko Rantanen, he's going to be, remember, they're going to be loading up on those first 2 lines. Mikko Rantanen is going to be the guy for Dallas. He's the difference maker. He's the reason what and why they brought him in last year. Dallas Stars want to take that next step. They got rid of Pete DeBoer, thinking that they needed a change. It's not crazy to get rid of Pete DeBoer. thinking they need a change to go to the next level. But the New York Islanders think, I'll fire Patrick Waugh with a few games to go and bring in Pete DeBoer to direct the Islanders to a higher level. Let's recycle another coach. So, I think that Rantanen is great value, 3 goals in this series. And I look at DK, DraftKings, head-to-head. Wyatt Johnson at minus 115 versus Quentin Hughes, minus 115 for most points in the series. Are you kidding me? I know Wyatt Johnson's a solid player, but he's not going to be the focal point. He's not going to get the 30 minutes a night like Quinn Hughes will. And all those first and second assists that I expect Quinn Hughes to have. Because Minnesota will be scoring. So give me Quinn Hughes all day, minus 115. Great value. That's a hunch. That's maybe 200 to put on Quinn Hughes to head-to-head Wyatt Johnson. What else do I got here? And then series shots on goal. Taking a flyer here. Mikko Rantanen, plus 125. 115, plus 115 to have 15 or more shots on goal. Rantanen's going to be loaded up, guys. He's going to be the guy. He's going to be the horse that Dallas is going to rely on. He was a monster last year in that first round series and in that Dallas run last year. He's a monster. All right. He's going to be making a run and he's going to be the guy. So bank on it. You bank on that right now that Mikko Rantanen is going to have 20 plus shots. But all I need is 15. So don't blame me if he winds up with 17, 18, but he sure as hell is going to get to 15. I like Minnesota to take the series. I like for them to move on. Quinn Hughes is going to even increase his stock in the eyes of the NHL community of a franchise defenseman. It happens here in this series. Minnesota moves on. Knocks off Dallas 6 or 7. Carolina, Ottawa, which is the series that kicks us off at 2 o'clock or 3 o'clock, whatever, on Saturday. I don't see a lot of national attention on this series. I don't think there's going to be a lot of hoopla. It's probably the one series that's going to be from a larger picture, not as popular. But we got 2 good teams here. Carolina. What's Carolina? Carolina comes in once again. Expectations super high. Should steamroll the Ottawa Senators. Despite the Senators coming in hot into the series. How's the health of Brady Tkachuk? Should be available, but, knocked up as he was coming into the end of the season. Wasn't playing. Is he available 100%? We'll find out. What questions will we hear from Carolina? I think that Carolina knocks off the Ottawa Senators. Carolina's a minus 172. Not much value there to take them in the series. Carolina is a plus 500 to win the Stanley Cup. Guys, Carolina, what's different than last year? What's different than 2 years ago? At some point, the goals dry up. At some point, Freddie Anderson, goalkeeper for the Carolina Hurricanes, becomes a problem. At some point, Rob Brindamore starts yanking Freddie Anderson. They lose the trust in him. Why is this year different? They may get through Ottawa, which I expect. But why is the Carolina narrative any different than in years past? I think they go through Ottawa. I think Ottawa takes us maybe 5 games. They're not going to keep up. Ullmark, yeah, he played solid down the stretch. Fine. But I think Carolina maximizes their playoff success here in the series, fades away a little later. So Ottawa is a plus 142 to win this series. No value there, in my opinion. 1,600 plus to win the Stanley Cup. I don't envision Brady Tkachuk lifting Lord Stanley. Do you? I'll even take the series from FanDuel 4-1 plus 430 Carolina. Ottawa gets that charity game where they get that win. Nothing more, nothing less. Playoff series goals. Seth Jarvis, solid player. Was an alternate, came in, played for Team Canada at the Canadian Olympic team. He pops in at least 3 in this series. Plus 140. I think it's solid value. But this series is all Carolina, despite Carolina is going to fade away later. So not much to say there. Carolina moves on. Series now, Tampa Bay, Montreal. Could you say, well, I'm going to first of all set the stage here that as a Leaf fan, I'm obliged to hate the Montreal Canadiens. I'm obliged to not want Montreal to win. I have no desire for the Montreal Canadiens to lift the Stanley Cup. I don't care that, 30 plus years have gone by since the last Canadian team to win the Stanley Cup. I don't know why people look at that as such if it's not the Leafs, who cares? Who cares? Do I want to see Montreal? 100% no. Do I want to see Ottawa? 100% no. But I don't even want to see Edmonton win it. I don't care if Calgary, Edmonton, Winnipeg, Vancouver. I want none of those. I have no desire to cheer for Edmonton harder because they're Canadian to win the Stanley Cup. It's the Leafs. It's the NHL. My Canada view, my Canada hat, goes on during the Four Nations, the Olympics, and the soon-to-be World Cup of Hockey. That's where it comes into. Even the World Championship that's going to come up every year, the Men's World Championship. Not in the Stanley Cup Finals. Not in the NHL. Okay, that's not the way it should be. No way. So, the way this series to me is going to play out. Sorry, I was going to go here, and what I was going to say is, you can't argue that the Montreal Canadiens are not the most exciting team in the NHL. I don't think you can argue that the Bell Center is the best viewing experience when it comes to watching a playoff matchup, even a Tuesday matchup in the NHL. When the Canadiens are rolling and the Bell Center's rocking, there is no wrinkle like it. You got to respect that. So props to the Canadiens. I hate you, though. And you know what? When you start hearing and seeing Habs fans talk, then I get a cringe because I especially push back and really don't want to see them make a run. But unfortunately, I do see them making a bit of a run here. Despite being a plus 210 to win this series over the heavily favored Tampa Bay Lightning, they're minus 260. Lightning is plus 360 to win the Cup. So they're up top. Montreal plus 3,500. Someone's not selling me on the Lightning, though. I mean, yeah, they rebounded. They got the horses, I guess. And with the Florida Panthers out of the picture, a lot of people think they're going to make the run. They're going to be in the Stanley Cup final. I don't see it. I think there's flaws in this team, and I think they had a great regular season, but this dynasty is going to crumble. I hate to say it, but the Montreal Canadiens are going to take this series. That Bell Center is going to be rocking. All Montreal has to do is split in Tampa Bay, and they come home, and I think that they take over from there. Tampa doesn't have that same juice. You know what I mean? The COVID series, where really fans weren't a factor when Tampa knocked off Montreal. I know they were a factor, but it just wasn't the same. It's going to be different. And I think the Lightning are in for a surprise here. And I think they're false. I think they're frauds. The Lightning go down, Montreal moves on. There's my take. I'm going to live with it. And then when you look at the props, series goals, I think there's value. And I look at FanDuel and Slavkovsky. Man, there's a guy that, for the Montreal Canadiens, that I think is real value He's a piece player. He's a goal scorer. He's a big body that will grow and grow over the next few seasons to be more effective, especially in the playoffs. I say he has at least 3 goals in this series, a plus 450. Plus 150. There's the glasses situation. I didn't see the plus. Plus 150 for Slavkovsky to get 3 goals or more. He'll at least have a goal, like a 2-goal performance and pop one in another game. But you got the Cole Caulfields and Nick Suzuki's who are going to be carrying this Montreal team. Here's a value. You want to put the chips on the table and put them in the middle? Cole Caulfield to have a hat trick in the series, plus 650. Name a guy in this series that when things are rocking, things are rolling for the Montreal Canadiens, they might not have a game, not have a career highlight, a moment. It's going to be Cole Caulfield rocking in the Bell Center or grinding it out in Tampa and just has a game. 3 goals from Cole Caulfield, the memory that will be instilled in Habs fans. Plus 650. Also, FanDuel. I'm taking a chance here, but Cole Caulfield, 50-goal scorer, because this series, I think, is going to go 6 or 7. 20 or more shots. He's going to be lighting it up, guys. He's going to be rifling the puck on net. He knows that Vasilevsky's a top-tier NHL goaltender, one of the best we've ever seen. Maybe the favorite to win the Vezina. He's going to be rocking. He's going to be throwing that howitzer on net. He's going to have 20-plus shots. 5-6 shots is not out of the question in some of these games that we'll see against the Tampa Bay Lightning. Take the Canadiens to move on. Take Cole Caulfield to have a series, to be a focal point, to be putting pucks on net and get the payout. Habs move on. Hate to say it, but they're going to move on. All right. Here's an interesting matchup. Old Norris division, not old, Adams division matchup. Buffalo Sabres taking on the Boston Bruins. Boston Bruins limping in. I'm going to say limping in because we're used to the Bruins coming in at the 1 or 2 or top seeds, Stanley Cup favorite, Brad Marchand, and, Patrice Bergeron. That era is gone, but we do still have Pasta. David Pasternak is still there. What do the Buffalo Sabres have? They've had a great year. Are they coming into their own? Are they going to make a run here? Do they have the horses? They're a minus 178 to win this series. Boston plus 146. Sabres plus 1900 to win the Stanley Cup. The Boston Bruins plus 7,500 to win the Stanley Cup. Do you envision that the Sabres are going to be lifting the Stanley Cup? Buffalo is going to have a parade. I don't see it, guys. I think you made a run. I think you've had a great season. But I think the Boston Bruins knock you off. I think the Stanley Cup Playoffs is going to be a bit overwhelming for you Sabres fans out there. I think Pasta is going to have a series. And I think it's a series that's going to be the differentiator. Like that word differentiator. To where the Boston Bruins move on and you just don't. All right? Pasta, 4+ goals in this series. You're damn right. You're damn right. So that's kind of where I'll see it here. But I also throw in the Bruins are going to have a 2-1 series lead. That's good value to me. It's plus 170. I see a split in Buffalo. And game 3 where the Bruins win. Plus 170. And then head-to-head on DK. Goals. Tage Thompson, who can put a puck in the back of the net. There's no question about that. Against Pasta, minus 115 each guy. Give me Pasta all day. Let's add the carbs for Pasta. Knocks off Tage Thompson. Pasta makes it done. He's the differentiator in the series, as I said. Bruins move on. And I move on. Because we're going to talk Vegas, Utah, Mammoth. Head into Vegas. Taking on the minus 188 to win the series, Gold Knights. Plus 155 series for the Mammoth from Utah. The Gold Knights minus 1,200 to win the cup. And plus 3,300 for the Mammoth. I think the Golden Knights are undervalued, not only in this series. I'm not going to take minus 188, but 1,200 to win the cup. I mean, that's based on Aiden Hill goaltending for the Lightning, or the, what did you see in Lightning? Golden Knights has been awful, but I think with Torts in there, which I don't think will last long term for as far as him being a coach of the Golden Knights, before he gets the exit in the door. But I do see the Golden Knights walking over the Mammoth, either 4-1 or 4-2. I like 4 plus 410. So if you go on FanDuel, I think there's value taking both Golden Knights winning the series 4-1 at plus 410, or winning 4-2 at plus 420. You get your money plus, double if you put 100 on each, or triple, whatever it is. Value there. Golden Knights win the series of ease. Mammoth have a nice little run. Like to see Utah. Utah is a great spot for the NHL, by the way, guys. The NHL is going to go middle class America. Utah's the world. 2 more expansion teams. I think they're probably going to go Houston, Atlanta when it comes to adding a 34-team league. Atlanta, they can't say no to. Third chance. They just love the corporate community there. But really, the NHL's bread and butter, I think, is going to be, man, they would fit in Omaha, Nebraska, or in Austin, Texas, or somewhere, middle America, where you could see colleges being a part of the mix of, filling the NHL coffers of players. But Utah is a fantastic spot. I bet you we'll hear in 10 years that the Utah, Salt Lake City area, all over that area, being a hotbed for young players, local leagues, and just the community is going to grow. Don't worry, Canada, you're dying hockey-wise because you're catering to the upper class, to be honest with you. Ridiculous. But middle-class America, maybe closer to the upper class where you got 300, 400 million people, is going to thrive. The NHL is going to see an influx of American players from different parts where you've put in teams. So kudos to you, Gary Bettman. Your playoff format sucks, but your thought process on the long-term viability of the NHL and these markets, hey, you had something here. Good job. So when it comes to Vegas, they win, minus 188. Keep in mind, good value for Stanley Cup lifting. And I think that this team is loaded and ready to make a run. And their goaltending can't get worse than it was in the regular season. Remember, that's the regular season. Aiden Hill is a Stanley Cup winning goaltender and was a factor a few seasons ago on the Vegas run to the Stanley Cup. And I think he will regain at least some of that form, which I think will be enough for the Vegas Golden Knights to make a run. We move on. Edmonton, Anaheim. Edmonton, again, like the Golden Knights, are plagued by goaltending questions, plagued by maybe Draisaitl not being 100%. He should be back for the series against the Anaheim Ducks. After showing up to the Cup final 2 times in a row, I think the stock is down, at least from the public, for the Edmonton Oilers. They're only a minus 240 to win this series. Wow, talk about lack of respect. The Ducks have had a fantastic season under Joe Quenneville. Their stock is up. They have the young talent. They started mixing in some veteran, established talent with Chris Kreider, which I think was a solid move. John Carlson, Stanley Cup winning defenseman, veteran, brought in from Washington. Great value. Now, if you've watched this Ducks team, you see Cutter Gauthier, controversial, I don't want to play for the Flyers. Get me out of here. He quietly turns into a 40-goal scorer in the NHL, which is not easy to do. Value. The Ducks took advantage of a situation. They grabbed a player who wanted out and capitalized. But as I've watched this Ducks team throughout the season, Their talent has brought them to this point. I don't think they have a shot against the Oilers. I think the Oilers steamroll them either 4-1 or 4-2. I lean on the 4-1 side. The Ducks are sloppy right now. They're sloppy. They're a sloppy team. You know, the times I've watched them not taking advantage of multiple, power plays, 2-man advantages where it's just a little sloppy. They don't go for the kill. They just don't know at this point how to keep an opponent down, how to eliminate, take advantage when you have leverage. They just can't knock an opponent out, and they're sloppy. Connor McDavid, Leon Draisaitl will outscore the Ducks here. They will be just a bit better on the power play. They'll take advantage of the Ducks not taking advantage of their situations, their leverage situations, and they will knock off the Ducks. And the Ducks will be going into the offseason, looking at the blueprint and thinking, all right, we had a good season. We got into the playoffs. Maybe we weren't as ready and prepared as we thought we were. And where do we go from here? We brought in Chris Kreider. We brought in John Carlson. But what other pieces do we need? Do we make the same mistake as a Toronto Maple Leafs, where I hold on to a core a bit too long before changing a deck chair here and there, or maybe a move here, maybe a move there, taking a chance of the unknown allows us to take that next leap and take that next step. We'll see, but it's not going to be this year, and it's not going to be in this series. The Edmonton Oilers will knock off the Ducks in maybe 6 games, but I predict 5. So give me the Oilers at least a -2.5 on FanDuel, plus 240. What that means is that they're going to win by 3 games in that series. So I believe they'll take the series 4-1 or sweep it all out. But I tend to think the 4-1. So there's value at the plus 240. Who's going to lead? Oh, and also a solid bet is who wins game 1 and also wins the series. Oilers are -110. Give me the Oilers all day to win the first game at home. Probably pummel the Ducks. And then -110 for the Oilers to carry out the series. I think there's value. That's close to a lock in a series. I think there's going to be that you're going to get a -110 bet. -110 at great value. From a props perspective, DraftKings, most goals in the series. I know Draisaitl's back, but I mean, you give me Connor McDavid plus 350 all day. All day. Most goals in the series plus 350. Most points in a series. Guess who I'm going to take at a plus? Minus even money. Connor McDavid. Art Ross trophy winning. Former Conn Smythe. He performs. There's no question. He's one of the few players, superstar players, and that's why he's a superstar, that produces in the regular season at a high clip, at an elite level, and does the same in the playoffs. The Ducks are not going to have the horses to shut him down like maybe a Florida Panthers would. Not happening. What are you on, quack? Get that? Like that corny joke? There it is. Head to head. Zach Hyman, who is, we forget, he's a goal scorer, he's a playoff guy, and he makes a difference. Zach Hyman right now, I believe, is undervalued heading into this playoff year and series. So head to head, not Trevor Zegras. He got traded to Philadelphia. Troy Terry, -135 versus a Zach Hyman on points. I'll take Zach Hyman all day. Value at plus 105. And here's a wacky one. Man, here is a chance to put a small little something on who will get a hat trick in the series. Zach Hyman plus 1,100. You tell me that in this series that it's not going to get out of hand in a few games. It's not going to be a wild 6-4, 7-3, 8-3. game where Zach Hyman is just popping pucks in just outside the crease. Zach Hyman tips a couple home. Zach Hyman gets that third goal on an empty netter because the team is feeding Zachy Hyman. That could happen. There's value there. Plus 1,100 for Zach Hyman to walk away in this series with at least one hat trick. That caught my attention. Does it catch yours? Oilers move on. Colorado taking on the LA Kings. Minus 530 for the Colorado Avalanche to knock off the Kings in the series. Plus 390 for the Kings. Plus 340 for the Avalanche to win the Cup. Plus 6,000 for the Kings. This is what pisses me off, actually. You know what I mean? Like, we've gotten to a point right now where books, are so chicken shit and don't want to do good business, in my opinion. If the LA Kings are plus 6,000 to win the Stanley Cup, I mean, the Colorado Avalanche are the Stanley Cup favorite by a long shot. You tell me if this wasn't 10 years ago and we're in the same scenario where the LA Kings are coming into the series on the road, nobody in hell gives the Kings a shot to win this series. But wouldn't it be intriguing and gutsy of a sports book to give the Kings like a plus 1,000 to win this series? If you saw plus 1,000, plus 950, would you kind of like, maybe, just maybe, does Anze Kopitar in his last season make a run here? Do the Kings summon the ghosts of years past where they, go on a Stanley Cup run as the 8th seed, come back from a 3-0 deficit against, I think it was the Vancouver Canucks at the time? Dude, why would I bet the Kings in the plus 390? Where's the value in that? You guys are such chicken shits, FanDuels and DraftKings of the world. Like, you're squeezing the public so bad. Like, one time we have an upset where people get paid off. I get you have to cater to your stockholders and shit like that, but guys, if you haven't been in the game long and you're, recently because, sports betting has become legal and you just opened your FanDuel account in April for Canada here, at least, a few years back, man, you've missed out big time. You missed out on some of the fun. Yeah, we had to go to a Western Union. Yeah, we had to go via Vanilla MasterCard and get those dirty looks when you've walked in 3 or 4 times to buy Vanilla MasterCards and people are looking at you strange because they're thinking you're up to no good because why is this guy buying Vanilla MasterCards multiple times a day? But man, you used to be able to go for an upset and when it paid off, you got paid. Most of the time you lost. But Jesus Christ, you had the story to tell. But man, sorry, I'm going off on this, but the world has changed. You're getting squeezed. I know we're still in the racket and I got a podcast here talking about it, but I just look at this and the LA Kings should be a much higher value than they are. They're not going to win this series. Don't get me wrong. Even if it was plus 1,000, I don't know if I'd put any dollars and cents on this. Colorado should walk through the Kings. And some of the value here to me are Nathan MacKinnon should have a hot series. That guy's a gamer. He's a superstar. He produces, whether it be regular season or playoffs, no question. Brock Nelson is a guy they brought in last year from the New York Islanders. But he's a value player. He's a value guy. He'll produce in the series. He'll score. So for me, plus 400, 4 goals from Brock Nelson, a goal here, a goal there, 2 goals here, 1 goal there, 1 goal there. There's value to me on FanDuel taking Brock Nelson of the Colorado Avalanche to perform, score at least 4 goals in the series. The series itself for FanDuel, minus 2.5 is not even offered. So, I mean, I guess the big odds here that Colorado's going to take this most likely and maybe give charity to the Kings winning a game 4-1. Not even offering it, for Christ's sake. Come on. Head to head, a FanDuel. Martin Necas minus 120 versus Panarin. I know it's minus 120, but Panarin to me has not been the guy that the Kings thought, he'd be. He's a producer. He's a point producer. And just the Kings are starving for that offense that they don't have. They can't produce on a consistent basis. And I know Arturi Panarin was there, but this is where a team may make a mistake that they're, I need a goal scorer. I need a difference maker. What's available? But what you need wasn't available. What you're going to need, and I think it's overvalued, but I envision, if it's not this year, it's next, where Austin Matthews is going to be. He's going to be in LA. That's the kind of change that they need. They need to make the Quinn Hughes move that the Minnesota Wild made. They need to make the Austin Matthews game-changing move, or they're not going to move forward. They got good players. Quinn Byfield's a good player, but he's not carrying the load offensively that the Kings need to go to that next level to compete with the Colorado Avalanche, Vegas Golden Knights. They don't have the firepower. They just don't. And that's why they won't have a chance to upset the Colorado Avalanche. They don't have a game-changing player on the back end or at center that's going to make a difference and give them a shot here against Colorado. Just ain't. Not happening. Not my watch. So we'll move on. Let's go to the bracket. All right? So I'm done with I'm on with these teams. Let's go to the bracket. Share the screen. Share my screen. And let's go to the windows. And let's go to the bracket here in the NHL. The locked-in bracket. Everybody's screaming 1-8, by the way. Gary, you go online. You constantly get asked about the format. Come on, guys. Overwhelmingly, the public wants the 1-8. And if you really want to make it competitively fair, you want the 1-8, which the fans are screaming for. I don't know if there's a push like the NBA to have a play-in series. Just give me the 1-8. And if you really want additional value on the regular season, the top seed should be able to play the low seed in the playoffs. That's simply the way it's got to be, okay? I know the locked-in bracket allows us to post the bracket, allows you to put in the competitions, the fantasy, and have it easier to follow along. But if competition and fairness and value in the regular season means anything, you got to allow the top and higher seed to play the lower seed. Take advantage if, let's say, the LA Kings do pull off the upset. Allow the Vegas or the Edmonton Oilers, the Vegas Golden Knights, to then take on the LA Kings and make it mean something that they won their division and be in the second seed. Allow there to be an advantage. That puts more emphasis on the regular season, but I don't believe that's going to happen. The 1-8 idea is probably dying with Gary, who delusionally talks about, we think people like it. No, you don't. There's other factors to why you want to keep it. But this delusion that you're talking about people like it, who? Who are these people? Not the paying public. So stop the stupid answer. I give you credit and props for envisioning some of the franchises and markets would allow explosion of hockey popularity in the United States. You've done that, but just don't give me that stupid dribble and verbiage on why it's a good idea. So I look at the bracket. What do I think is going to happen? Colorado moves on. We went through this. Minnesota has the upset. Vegas Golden Knights knock off the Utah Mammoth. Edmonton Oilers quickly move beyond the Anaheim Ducks. Now, Western Conference, where do we go from here? All right. Reputation online. Upset City. Minnesota knocks off the Colorado Avalanche. Quinn Hughes again makes his mark in his career by advancing not only beyond the Dallas Stars, but being the difference maker head-to-head with Cale Makar, allowing the Minnesota Wild to get past the Colorado Avalanche. You're saying I'm nuts? Fine. But you and I know that we don't see it play out in the NHL playoffs like we do in other sports. There is a lot of upsets, and this outcome can very much happen. Edmonton Oilers, Vegas Golden Knights. I think the Knights are going to make a run here, guys. Average to good goaltending will be in the cards for the Golden Knights. They knock off the Oilers. Oilers just can't get it done. And the questions are out there. Does Connor want to stay at Edmonton? I don't know. Maybe he won't. Then we have a Minnesota, Vegas Golden Knights, Western Conference Final. Finally, the Golden Knights put an end to this Minnesota Wild run. Quinn Hughes has a strong series, but the Golden Knights get it done, and they head off to the Stanley Cup Final. Now, before we get to the final, we go to the Eastern Conference. The Buffalo Sabres lose to the Boston Bruins, we talked about. Montreal upset against the Tampa Bay Lightning. And then we move on. Carolina knocks off Ottawa. Pittsburgh moves on from Philadelphia. And now we got choices to make. Traditional Adams division, Boston, Montreal. The old Forum versus the Boston Garden. Montreal gets it done. Montreal goes on those stupid runs that you don't think they're going to make, but they get on a roll. They get the goaltending. They get the big plays. The Bell Center's rocking. They knock off the Bruins in 6. And then Carolina, Pittsburgh. Here's the questions about Freddie Anderson. Sidney Crosby and the Penguins knock off the Carolina Hurricanes in 6 or 7 games. Carolina cannot get it done. Carolina has to reflect in the mirror. Do we have what it takes to move on? Which you don't. And then we have a Montreal, Pittsburgh, Eastern Conference. The Eastern Conference final we didn't think we'd see. Does Montreal make that journey to the Stanley Cup Finals? Nah. The kid has a story. We have a story in the NHL. It is about the Sidney Crosby run. Is this it for Sid? Is this the last time we're going to see Sidney Crosby in the NHL? Is this it? Is this the last time we're going to see him in a Pittsburgh Penguins uniform if he decides to move on? It's going to be a story, and that's going to be the story of this year's playoffs. The Pittsburgh Penguins knock off the Canadiens 6-7 games, and then we go to a final. Vegas Golden Knights taking on the Pittsburgh Penguins. Sorry, Pittsburgh. This is where the story ends. The Vegas Golden Knights win the Stanley Cup. Jack Eichel makes a difference to me. Golden Knights win Stanley Cup. There's your champion. 2-time Stanley Cup champions. Conn Smythe, we move into. Right now, the odds are Nathan McKinnon plus 700. Nikita Kucherov plus 600. Connor McDavid plus 1,900. Cale Makar plus 2,000. Vasilevsky, 2,200. Sebastian Aho, 2,200. Seth Jarvis, 2,700. And I'm going to say the best value to me is Jack Eichel, plus 4,000. I think he will be the difference maker this time around for the Golden Knights. But if you think the Oilers are going to make a run, which could happen, I think the Golden Knights are the barrier between, to me, the Edmonton Oilers making another run. So if they get back past the Golden Knights, which I don't think they will, they go to the final. All right? And Connor McDavid at plus 1,900, there's value there. So my value to me, first, is Jack Eichel, 4,000. Connor McDavid, second at plus 1,900. There's my value there. So I like the Golden Knights to win this Stanley Cup 2026 Cup. The Pittsburgh Penguins to make a run. Canadiens to make a little bit of a run. Shocking 2-round losing the conference final. Minnesota to make a bit of a run, knocking out the Avalanche at some point here in the second round. We got a lot of things going. You know what? I'm going to leave it there. I think we've talked a lot. I was going to dive into some of the teams that didn't make the playoffs, but we're going to focus on that. I'm going to leave it there for the Stanley Cup playoffs. But when I said I was going to leave it there, I'm going to circle back a bit and give you some plays for this first 2 days of NHL Stanley Cup playoff action. To me, game one, Boston comes in, good value to knock off the Sabres on Sunday, plus 130. Here's a parlay for Sunday. Let me circle back to Saturday. Ottawa, Carolina kicks us off at 3 o'clock, plus 112 for the under 5.5. I'm going to give it plus 112. Under. Minnesota Wild, Dallas Stars, over 5.5. I think you'll squeeze out a 4.5, over 5.5 here. Take the alternative night game, Pittsburgh, Philadelphia, from 6.5 to 5.5, and you get a nice plus 178 payout. So $100 on both games there to go over 5.5 pays you out a profit of 178. Again, going into Sunday, take the Bruins plus 130. Vegas, Edmonton, money line, Vegas to win, Edmonton to win on Sunday, plus 156. I see them both winning at home. And then I was going to do Montreal, Tampa. I don't have a play there. Not in game one at least. But that sets you up for a Sunday, going back to Saturday, and gives you plenty to think about, plenty to chew on when it comes to the NHL playoffs. I'm sorry for putting this a little tight to the window of the final. The Stanley Cup playoffs. Puck drops very soon. But the Overrated Experience has got you going, got you thinking, and got the value plays ringing around. And I wish you the best of luck. I'll try to get back here for more to get into maybe heading into the second round or looking at games on the weekend as the first round continues, and maybe looking at an updated Conn Smythe / Stanley Cup odds. So here we go. Good luck to you. The Overrated Experience it's been a pleasure providing you this podcast, but the pleasure's more on your side, of course. The Overrated Experience is over. Let me get back to my screen here so I'll wave at you. Stop sharing. So the Overrated Experience is over and out. Good luck.